But it may be doubted how the devil, who is incorporeal, and the souls of the damned before the resurrection, can suffer from the bodily fire from which the bodies of the damned suffer in hell, as the Lord also says, Matthew 25:41. Go, cursed, into the eternal fire which is prepared for the devil and his angels. Therefore, it is not to be esteemed that incorporeal substances can suffer from corporeal fire, that their nature is corrupted by fire, or altered, or in any other way transmuted, as our corruptible bodies now suffer from fire. They are not even susceptible of sensible forms, except intelligibly, and such reception is not punitive, but rather perfective and pleasurable. Nor can it be said that they suffer affliction from bodily fire, on account of some contrariety, just as bodies suffer after the resurrection. Because incorporeal substances do not have organs of sense, nor do they use sensitive powers. Therefore, incorporeal substances suffer from bodily fire by means of a certain attachment. For spirits can be bound to bodies either by way of form, as the soul is bound to the human body so as to give it life, or even without this being its form, as necromancers, by the power of demons, bind spirits to images or similar things. Therefore, by divine power, the damned spirits can be bound by bodily fire, and this is the very thing that afflicts them, because they know that they are tied to the lowest things for punishment. It is also appropriate that damned spirits are punished with corporal punishment, for every sin of a rational creature is due to the fact that it is not submitted in obedience to God, but the punishment must correspond proportionally to the fault, so that the will is afflicted by the punishment on the contrary of what it has sinned in loving. It is therefore appropriate for the punishment of the rational nature of the sinner to be subjected in some way to things inferior to him, that is to say, corporeal. Again, the sin which is committed against God is not only due to the penalty of loss, but also to the penalty of the sense, as was shown in the third. For the penalty of the sense corresponds to the fault insofar as the unordered conversion to the exchangeable good, just as the penalty of loss corresponds to the sin insofar as the aversion from the immutable good. But the rational creature, and especially the human soul, sins inordinately by turning itself to corporeal things. Therefore it is fitting that he should be afflicted by corporal punishment. In addition, if an afflictive punishment is due to sin, which we call the punishment of the senses, it must be that this punishment proceeds from that which can cause affliction. But nothing causes affliction except insofar as it is contrary to the will. Now it is not contrary to the natural will of the rational nature that it be joined to the spiritual substance, for this is pleasing to it and pertains to its perfection. For there is a conjunction of like to like and intelligible to understanding. For every spiritual substance is intelligible in itself. Now it is contrary to the natural will of the spiritual substance to be subject to the body, from which, according to the order of its nature, it must be free. It is fitting, therefore, that the spiritual substance should be punished by the corporeal. From this it also appears that although the corporeal things which are read of the rewards of the blessed in the Scriptures are meant spiritually, as was said of the promise of food and drink. However, certain corporeal things which the Scripture threatens as a punishment to sinners are to be understood corporeally, and as it were properly said. For it is not fitting that the superior nature should be rewarded by the use of the inferior, but rather by the fact that it is joined to the superior. But the superior nature is suitably punished by the fact that it is assigned to the inferior. However, nothing prevents certain things which are said in the scriptures about the punishments of the damned to be read physically, to be taken spiritually, and as if said by similitude, as it is said in Isaiah 66:24, for it is not possible for a corporeal worm to corrode a spiritual substance, nor even for the bodies of the damned, which will be incorruptible. There was also weeping and gnashing of teeth in spiritual substances. They can only be understood metaphorically. Although in the bodies of the damned, after the resurrection, nothing prevents them from being understood corporeally. Yet so that by weeping is not meant the shedding of tears, because there can be no resolution from those bodies, but only pain of the heart and disturbance of the eyes and head, as is usually the case with weeping.